Okay, again, good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the conference closing in our MENASA open board meeting. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tad Kruse. I'm the MENASA area director and have served on the MENASA board for the last 5 years. We're going to begin with our open board meeting. Our meeting will be covering the following items. We're going to give you some brief updates and let you know kind of what's been happening, what the board's been working on, opportunities. We do want to get some feedback from you in terms of what issues or you think that we should be looking at or addressing, ideas maybe that came about from the course of the last 3 days, the sessions you participated in, any questions you may have. We want to share with you about openings and ways to get involved with MENASA and perhaps join our advisory board. And then lastly, an open discussion about how we can serve the area better. What things do you think we can do to connect with professionals across our very vast Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia NASPA area? So to begin, I just want to give a couple of updates, and I'd like for some of our board members to that are on the call to, if they would, just to say hello and introduce themselves, so that if we were in person, this would be much easier. But this way, then those of you who joined us, you'll know who some of our board members are, especially if you could state the institution that you're in the country where you're working in, that would be great. So I have limited capacity to see the list, unfortunately, because of my presenter view. But I do see Peter. Peter, would you get us started?
Sure. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you're at. I'm Pete Deasy. I am the Assistant Dean of Students and Director of Athletics at New York University, Abu Dhabi, and I've been on the board for the past year, working a little bit with outreach and membership along those lines.
Great. Thank you, Pete. Sharbel?
Yeah, thank you, Tad. I'm Sharbel Taraf. I'm the Associate Dean of Student Affairs at the American University of Beirut, Lebanon, and I've been on the board for the last 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Alexandra?
Hello. I'm Alexandra Gaziz. I'm the North Africa representative, and I'm the Associate Director for the Wellbeing Center at the American University in Cairo.
Great. Thank you, Alexandra. Nayla.
Hi, I'm Nayla Sherman. I work at Georgetown University in Qatar. I've been on the board for 3 years, and currently I'm a special projects coordinator.
Thank you, Nayla. Kevin?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Stensberg, and I'm the secretary for the board. And I work at as the graduate services manager at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Saudi Arabia.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Courtney?
Hi, I'm Courtney Stryker. I work at Qatar University, and I have, I am the founding director of the board, and I've been on the board since before it started. So I don't know how many years now, 6 years, 4, 5, I don't know, a long time.
More than 5, yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. Francis, I think you're on the call.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Francis. With Kevin, I work at KAUST in Saudi Arabia. I hope everyone's staying safe and well. I look after all the communications, and I've been on the board for the past year.
Great. Shabana.
Hey everybody, I'm Shabana. I'm the manager of student affairs at the University of Central Asia in Tajikistan. I'm currently a board member to represent Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, and I've been on the board for, I think, 3 years.
Great, thank you. Are there any of the board members? I'm just trying to go through the list. We have over 50 people in the call.
Wath is on the call.
Please.
Hey, this is Awab. I work at KAUST as the resident life specialist, and I represent the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the MENASA board.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you, Kevin. Is any of the board members on the call that I might have missed going through the list? My apologies. No? Okay, great. I'm going to give a couple of updates of some activities we've been doing across the area and from NASPA. And I just want to reiterate that there's been a note put in the chat. I want to give a special thank you now, and I'll say this later on, but Dr. Janelle Rans is with us. She's one of our NASPA liaisons. So both she and Tika Iku have been up the middle of the night, local time for them, for the last 3 nights to support the conference and our sessions. So I want to give a special thank you to 2 of them. Tiki's not with us at the moment, Dr. Janelle is, but I want to give a special thank you to them for all they've done to make sure that we could make this virtual conference a reality. So thank you to the both of them. I hear and see clapping, so that's wonderful. Thank you. Up first, we've been working on, besides the virtual conference, we've been working on a couple of other initiatives. We had our COVID-19 forums a few weeks back, which were facilitated by a couple of our board members. Those sessions were very well attended, and there was good participation in that. We are having a number of Multakas forthcoming. I know we spent the last 3 days doing virtual sessions, but the last week in April, we have 2 sessions that will be coming out. And then into May, the first week or 2 in May, we'll have some additional Multakas coming out. So please look at your emails for that and some updates. Sarah, our professional development chair, is not with us, so I don't know if there's any other updates to share. Courtney, do you have anything you want to share about the certificate program? Any updates? Because I know we've had a few questions that have come in about that.
Sure. As many of you may or may not know, Qatar University partnered with NASPA, and of course here in the MENASA region, to develop and pilot a student affairs certificate program. It's the first international student affairs certificate program in the world, and we are running it right now with 25 pilot program participants. And we also have auditors, which include people like our board members and a professional development committee, which did a lot of the research and framing for this particular certificate program at Qatar University. So right now we have 1 more module to go before we wrap this academic year's work. And it seems like it's going quite well. We will do the second half of the module, the next 5 components starting in the fall. And we may also start again with the first 5 modules. The modules are conducted either in English or in Arabic, and they are subtitled in either English or Arabic, depending on the language of delivery. There's assessment, and we have a final project. So if you're interested in things like this, you want to get engaged and develop yourself professionally, you can certainly contact me, or you can contact any one of our board members, and they will refer you to the right people for more information.
Great, thank you, Courtney. This is a big initiative and one that has been in discussion in various forms for several years. So it's very exciting for us to see that it's progressed to the level that it is, and that it will continue to progress. So our thanks to Dr. Courtney and others who've made this reality. Next, I just want to give some quick updates on some other activities. As a board, we developed and launched a survey last fall asking our members about how we could better support them. So we asked questions about language, communication mediums, professional development, and so forth. So we've received the feedback. We've looked at it. In fact, later on today, we're going to have a closed board meeting. We're going to be discussing a bit further about how we can adapt some of those strategies. So we take that in the communications piece in particular. Some of the outcomes where people said they preferred that we email and use social media, that both were the preferred methods for us to communicate. We are trying to reach out to as many professionals across the region as possible to inform them of our offerings, especially as some of our offerings at the moment are free. like our weekly or our Multaka series. So we really encourage that if you know of individuals or if you are not or haven't been receiving our weekly emails, please let us know so we can make sure we get you on that email list. Follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn. In fact, actually, Francis, do you want to give an update very quickly on what those, or can you put in the chat the way people can connect with us on the social media forums?
Yeah, sure. It's probably easier if I post it in the chat. I'll do it now.
That's great. Wonderful, thank you. And some of these sites we've just sort of launched or relaunched this year, so we're really hoping to get word out so people can connect with us in those social media forums, especially in light of how we're all working and communicating these days. Something else we've been working about is, and this touches on based on the issue of communication, is outreach. Peter and several other of our country and area representatives have been talking about how can we connect with people, not just in the GCC, which we have a fairly large number of professionals engaged, but in other countries, in other areas, in South Asia and North Africa in particular. So if you want to get involved, if you know of colleagues at other institutions that you're familiar with, friends with, colleagues with, if you would want to forward them our emails, there's ways in which they can reach out to us. We can get them included in the communications. I obviously encourage people to contact us regarding any of our activities, any of our opportunities. I'll share, actually, Janelle, if you can you put the link to the website in the chat as well? Because I can't access that with my screen share at the moment. But so then people can access various opportunities. Several things we'll be talking about here a little bit later on as well can be accessed from our website. So I just wanted to mention that. Peter, is there anything you'd like to add on that, on membership and outreach?
No, I mean, I think a part of it is spreading the word, getting colleagues involved. Obviously, we're getting more engaged with our social media and LinkedIn, so if people can connect there, and if you're doing programming and you think that it's valuable to the organization, then pass that along. We'll see if Francis can go ahead and repackage that or pass that along to others to let them know or connect with each other. So I think as we've learned with this online forum that there's an opportunity to be had here, certainly this month, but certainly into the future for us to continuously connect. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of reaching out and expanding our network and reinforcing the value of what we do through the Multaqas webinars as well as the annual conference.
Great, thank you, Peter. One thing I failed to mention before we were talking about our Multaqas and the virtual conferences, we are looking for people to present, and I'll be thanking our presenters here when we close. But we have quite a few individuals that offered to present for the virtual conference. As I mentioned, we have at least 3, most likely 4, maybe even 5 sessions coming up over the next month or so. So if you feel like that you have something to contribute, or maybe with a group of colleagues, please reach out to us through MENASA, through my email address. You can contact any of the board members on the website. Our advisory board link is there, so you can find our email addresses. But reach out to myself. You can reach out to Sarah Fahim, who's our professional development coordinator that coordinates our Multaqa series. So that's another way that you can get engaged, and it's a great way to network and connect with other professionals, both as a participant and a facilitator. Lastly, before we move on to sort of discussing some issues and ideas and things that may have generated from the conferences, I want to encourage people to join NASPA. NASPA is a international organization. It is based in the United States. Membership is $75 for an individual membership fee for 1 year. There are institutional memberships as well, which a number of institutions in the area do have institutional memberships. The institutional memberships do provide multiple members for I think it's 3 to 5 professionals that within the institution get memberships. So just something to encourage you. If you want more information on that, you can go to the NASPA website. Again, feel free to contact Peter or one of the other board members, and we'll be happy to follow up with that. So, having said that, from our board members, are there any other area updates you'd like to share at this point in time before we turn things over into a bit more of a discussion? Okay. Let me just very quickly mentioned about the open positions on the board. So we kind of have our two topics that are kind of more of an open discussion. We can kind of use those for the majority of our time. And that is, as an advisory board, we have a number of volunteer leadership positions. What's happened in the last 3 days would not have happened without our facilitators, without various board members, without our conference committee and so forth. So we do need volunteers. We have a number of openings. If you go to the website link that Janelle was good enough to share with us, you can click on the Get Involved link, and it lists some of our current openings. That list is not exhaustive. We are currently looking at what additional openings may present, and we need people to help us with translation, for instance. We are trying to grow our country representatives. We really want to expand and connect with as many area professionals as possible. By connecting and networking, we all become stronger. We create better resources for our students, and we can serve our campuses better overall. So I encourage you to explore that. Again, there's translators, country representatives. We're looking for communications coordinators, research coordinator, a membership and engagement to partner with Peter, and the communications to partner with Francis. So we have a number of openings. So please check that out. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat here in a moment. But if you have any questions, there will be a link. It's not currently live, but there will be a link on that underneath that Get Involved page for you to apply for a position. And so look for that. It'll probably be live perhaps later today, but most likely by tomorrow at the latest. So with that, issues, ideas, questions, what things came about from the last couple of days that you would like to share, discuss, that you think would be important for us as an area to keep in mind moving forward? And feel free to unmute yourself and speak. The table is open.
People can put questions in the chat if you'd like, or as Tad said, feel free to unmute yourself and let us know what your thoughts are.
I saw there was one. Sorry.
So I think, was that Kevin and someone else?
Hello, good morning, everyone. In the chat about a question about certificates for the conference.
Okay. Yeah, so let me answer that first, then we'll go to the other individual. So I did receive an email asking about certificates of attendance. At this point in time, we're not issuing certificates of attendance because we were virtual, and it was very difficult for us to track who was attending and who was not attending. We'll discuss that a little bit later on. If something would change, we'll be happy to inform people of that. But at this point in time, I don't see how, because it's very difficult for us to identify who was in sessions and who was not.
Good morning, Ted.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, congratulations on the success of the conference, but actually based on the past achievements, I would love to see like a community board for MENASA and ASPA.
Did you elaborate on that? What exactly?
I mean, community board, like online platform where we can share, I mean, any ideas, just having a community where we can share ideas, where we can have support. Anyone can place a question so others can reply. It's like an interaction, online interaction.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's something that we've discussed at various points over the years. And I think the real question that many of us have had is, what platform would that be? Kind of what would be the best use of that? In the past, I know listservs seemed to be what was utilized, but our inboxes all seem to be inundated with so much information anymore. So does anybody have any ideas on that? Because I think it's a great suggestion. And I want to come to next. I know that there's some issues here about groups and forums and so forth. I want to come to that next, because we've received some information and feedback on that the next couple of days. But are there any mediums people can think of for us to create these sort of listserv or forum discussion opportunities?
Well, Tad, I'll hop in there. I don't think we have a Twitter feed. So if we, I'm sort of in favor of sticking with what we do and then just try to do it really, really well. And I wonder if it is these questions get submitted and maybe there is a day of the week where there are 2 or 3 questions that are posted on Instagram in general from the community for people to go ahead and provide feedback and suggestion or get connected with someone. So, I don't know if it's a topical, we've had Topical Tuesday, but maybe it's I don't know. We don't have any days that start with Q for question, and we don't have any days that start with P for problem. But I think we could probably get creative along those lines. And I think it's just posing those. Maybe it's the end of the week or the beginning of the week, one post with 2 or 3 questions, and then the person to connect with. It may be as simple as that.
I have a suggestion. I'm not sure if it's applicable or not. There are communities on the website of NASPA. So if we can create a community for MENASA NASPA there, I'm not sure if possible or not.
Yes, the communities are a kind of a different medium typically. There is international education knowledge community that exists. But they don't have a forum kind of like what we're discussing at the moment, mechanism that's very succinct for people to sort of share that I'm aware of, not necessarily. But Janelle, just can you make a note? Well, let's see if we can explore that and come back to that issue to see what may exist within the IAKC.
Yeah,
I'm
sure,
also
definitely.
I'm currently the IAKC co-chair, so I just took on that role in the past 2 weeks. So it's something that I'm asking for multiple purposes. Sorry, Janelle, go ahead.
I was just agreeing that I want to do that.
Communities?
Okay, I'm sorry. Someone was just speaking. Can you repeat yourself?
Oh, Chad, this is Hiba. So I want to ask so I'm very new to this. So where are these communities that we've been speaking of?
So if you're a NASPA member,
Yeah.
and, Janelle, maybe you can speak a little bit to this in a moment, but if you're a NASPA member, there are a number of knowledge communities that exist for partnering with student affairs and academic affairs, leadership. There's international education knowledge community. There are just ways for professionals to be informed and to connect and so forth in different ways. So I think there's more than a dozen or so that I'm aware of. Janelle, can you add anything else to the knowledge communities?
Yes, Tad, thanks for sharing. Yes, as you shared earlier, it's an opportunity for our members to be able to engage with subject interest communities. For example, we have the international education community, we have the community college community, we have first generation communities, and so it's an opportunity to discuss with colleagues in similar interests around things that you would like to do within higher education. And of course, if you have any specific questions, feel free. I'll drop my email in the chat as well if you want to talk about specific communities that you can get involved in. We would love to have you.
Excellent.
Great. Does anyone else want to add anything about the knowledge communities? I know there's quite a few NASPA members that have been members for years and maybe have participated in other ways. Okay. Just looking at time and making sure that we're able to get through everything today. I want to come back to this issue of forums, and I appreciate what those have shared already about. And there's several great comments that have been put in the chat about, can we create a forum for best practices or maybe a task force? There was a comment about creating a forum for mental health and so forth. So are there other thoughts on maybe other interest areas or topical areas that may be of interest for us to come together as professionals in the area? And again, maybe possible mediums for us to utilize. Other thoughts, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank you all for the great effort to move this conference to the virtual one. I'm Amal from Qatar University, and I would like to visit this online NASPA conference thing in the future. Not all of us can travel or go, so if you can have in the future some sessions that's online that like we can register for in the future, it will be really great. So thank you.
Great, thank you for that feedback. And actually that's one of the things that I don't mind saying, because I know that both Dr. Courtney and the NASPA team that we've talked about and why we wanted to make sure we did this virtual conference was looking to the future, how we may be able to provide some opportunities for people to engage virtually, even with a face-to-face conference, providing ways for people to maybe join in via live streaming and whatnot. So thank you for that comment. That's good to know.
I see that Zaja's raising her hand. Why don't you go ahead, Zaja?
Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. I was just waiting for the discussion to finish about the communities, and I think it's a great idea. My point is a bit different. I've had a chance to chat with few of the people who attended my session yesterday, and there was a concern that there is a need for more Arabic content sessions. I'm sure you've discussed this before, so my apologies if I'm, this something that was discussed before. But the reason of I wanted to share this with you now that everyone is here is to encourage people to share and to come forward if they have anything they think that would be helpful for MENASA NASPA members, whether through conference or just like an online session, because there is a need for more Arabic content in this region, given the nature of many people who are maybe more they're more Arabic speakers in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaja, and thank you, Courtney, for indicating about the raised hand. I can't see that, so with my share screen, but it is something we've been discussing. And actually, Zaja, that's why for some of the board positions, we've created some translator components. So even with some of our English-only sessions, some things might be able to be translated, at least the slides and whatnot. So we've talked about various ways in which we could do that. Live translation can be difficult virtually. But it is definitely something that we wanted to do, and we intentionally sought out to have Arabic sessions this time around. For the face-to-face conference, we actually had 0 presenters submitted for Arabic. So we are grateful for those presenters that joined us for this virtual one. But it is something that's been raised, and it's just a matter of us being able to connect. We do have the challenge also of realizing that across the area, we have, I think, over 40 languages that are spoken. And so we know that and from our survey, which was not a great response rate, but English and Arabic seem to be the dominant languages overwhelmingly, with a few other additional ones mentioned. But it is something that we've talked about, and we are continuing to explore options. So if you know anyone who would like to facilitate, and I say this in part because even with the conference registration form, because of us working virtually and scrambling to get everything in order, we didn't have time to do a translation for those registration forms, which to me would be something that would be great for us to do. To complement what you're suggesting about having more offerings in Arabic and being able to share more information. So thank you for that. That's good feedback. So along these same lines, and we're kind of discussing it anyway, so it's great. So how do you feel that MENASA NASPA and NASPA in general can serve the area overall, can serve you within your roles? But what are the things you think we can be doing or should be doing? And again, these if you see me on the screen, I'm looking now, I'm writing notes because I think there's some great ideas that have been shared. So kind of taking maybe the focus and opening it up a little bit further. Other thoughts, other ideas.
Just the thoughts, Tad and everyone. Do we have or can we have funding for research in the area?
That's probably a little more complicated question. And I'll say that one of the things that we've discussed is doing more with research. We last year put in place a research coordinator position on the board, which we filled, but the person had to step down. And so that's been vacant actually for most of the year. So that was a place we were looking to start and to connect with, trying to create some degree of synergy about research in the area, connecting people who maybe have not done research with people who have, to offer support, to help people collaborate, which obviously makes it much easier in taking on the burden of research and so forth. So at the moment, there are some NASPA grants to support research. Those opportunities come out in the spring. I think those are only offered to NASPA members. I believe you have to be a NASA member to apply for those grants. So there is a little bit of money there that I'm aware of. Janelle, Courtney, anyone else? Is anyone else aware of any opportunities specific to how we operate?
In NASPA, we offer some funding opportunities in the general NASPA area, NASPA organization, specifically from a NASA region. I'm not aware of any at this moment, but we're definitely looking to seeing what we can, what resources might be available for the MENASA region, specifically for research funding.
Yeah, research is an area that we've been discussing for many years of how we can do more to support area research, because we know a lot of the research out there is coming from Europe and the United States, which doesn't always transfer to our student population. So thank you for raising that point.
I just want to tag on a comment there. During the last several years when we've talked about research, both as a MENASA group, but also when we've been at the conference in the US, I want to bring up something that a lot of people, especially from this region, have talked about, and that is, what does that mean? What does a scholarly article look like? What does it, at what level do I need to be able to write in order to contribute to the research? And one of the things that I think all of us have agreed on over and over again as we've talked about research on the board is that first and foremost, what we'd love to see from people in the region is Arabic content, papers, descriptions of best practices, things that you may have written that have to do with student affairs. As most of you know, there is a very, very small amount of literature on student affairs that's actually in Arabic. We're also looking at languages like Russian to help serve Central Asia. We're also looking at languages like Hindi and Urdu to serve our other larger populations. So if you are writing things in those languages, let us know, and we can start to provide a space to host what it is that you're writing, what it is that you're talking about for student affairs. So I don't want folks to be out there and be intimidated by having to write an article that might be at a level that would have to be accepted in an international journal. From my perspective, and I think the rest of the board, we just want to start putting that information out there in the languages that most people can access. I don't know if you want to add to that, Ted.
I do, and actually, thank you for raising that latter point, because when I heard research, I immediately jumped to more scholarly work. But I had a conversation with a member of our board recently, and the issue was what other mechanisms exist for non-scholarly research to share those and publish those. And I know from my own journey that those can be very limited. And I've reached out to a couple colleagues asking, and they're like, well, there's this forum, there's that forum. NASPA publications are a bit limited in terms of that capacity, but I think it's something we could maybe just simply create space on our website to provide those opportunities. That could be another medium that we haven't really fully explored, because it's research one with everything else that the area, we're only 5 years old, which is not young, but it's not old either. And there's been a lot of work to just establish the area and get to where we are, today. Making sure we've had a conference, for each of the last 5 years on top of the 9 years prior to that and so forth. So I think that's an area where if by having somebody in that research coordinator role and as a board that we should just come back and revisit. So we just need people to reach out and say, hey, I have something, help me find a place, for us to present it. And so things like that, like the conversation I had last week, are what we need to kind of help make sure that we can slot these things in. So that's an excellent point. Thank you, Courtney. Other ways in which we can serve the area, issues, things that came up this week. Well, while people are thinking, let me kind of move on to the last point of the agenda today, and that is about future conference hosts. So currently we do not have a host for our conference next year. Obviously with the current COVID-19 situation, we're all in this state of limbo, not sure what the immediate or long-term future holds. There is a link on our website. I'm not sure if it's been updated or not. Janelle, did our conference host application get published with the updates?
Yes, Tad is updated on our website right now. It is updated.
Great. Great. So if you go to our main page at the top, I believe there's a link at the very top of the page that takes anyone who's interested in being a conference host for 2021 or even 2022. We'd like to get ahead of things a bit. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to myself, to Dr. Courtney, to other members of the board that have helped in this process, but definitely with Dr. Courtney and myself, we can answer questions and talk about things with you on the side. So that's if you're interested. And if you're like, I'm not quite sure, or hey, what does it all entail, and you just want to inquire, by all means, feel free. We know we don't need answers right away. It's something that we know is going to be, especially in the current state of things, it's going to be a dialogue. It's going to be a extended conversation, let's say, for how we move forward. But it's very important for us to be able to have that. I think that this has been a great forum, but there's nothing better than having the time in between sessions to be able to speak with somebody over coffee, going from one session to another. That's something that I've missed this year, both with the NASPA annual conference and with our current conference. So our MENASA area conference, I should say. So. Okay, great. Janelle, is what you just posted, is that the link to the area board apps, or is that the link to the conference host? I just want to make sure that we have the right link there.
That is the link to the area board applications. I can post the conference one now.
Yes, because I'm not sure if the board app one is live, published externally at this point in time. So I say this because some of you, if you're a non-NASPA member, you may not be able to access that first link at the moment. But again, you'll be able to access all of these off of the MENASA website, the link that was shared earlier. Great. So there's a question of does NASPA have an online forum newsletter? If you are a NASPA member, they do send out weekly emails and notices. I'm not quite sure about the online forum, though. Janelle, can you speak to that question?
To the question of our online newsletter? So,
no, sorry, yeah, the question about the online forum.
At this time, I'm not sure that we have a NASPA online forum specifically for MENASA. Is that specifically for NASPA or for general NASPA? I know that with our KCs, we do have opportunities for discussion and dialogue amongst those different KC groups. But as far as a general NASPA online forum or newsletter, we do have a couple of publications that have come out of NASPA. For example, the Leadership Exchange was just published yesterday. If we also have a couple of other journals as well. I can also include those in the chat if you all are interested in learning more about what online materials we have to offer to MENASA, so that you all can have access to those resources as well.
Great, thank you for that update, Janelle. And thank you for clarifying your question about online journals. I can say that I know that if you're on Twitter and whatnot, there are some of the social media forums that are live posted on the main NASPA website. So there are ways to engage with other professionals, but they're not specific to our area per se. So. Any other ideas, suggestions? And feel free to add things in the chat if you don't feel like speaking directly. So Majid's saying, is there a possibility to create communities of interest? I mean, for counseling, career development. So I think that's something that we're going to be discussing. I've been using the word forums, but and Peter mentioned earlier, like the topical Tuesdays and so forth. So we've done a few topical Tuesdays in the past, and basically those were to be less presentation and more virtual discussion, using as a platform very similar to this, where people can join in and share and just talk back and forth. So that's something that I think there's definitely more space for us to explore and find out ways in which we can do that. So I think that based off the feedback that people have given us today, I think we need to explore how we can do that and facilitate that maybe a little bit more succinctly. So if we can't find some sort of chat or virtual posting board, let's say, that's easily effective for our needs, I think that at least creating some regular sessions. So once, every so often, we can have a conversation for those people working in counseling that want to come talk just about best practice or issues that people are facing. So that's something that I know that I've been looking at, and I felt very important. We've done a few of those over the years. In part, very similar for those who might have attended the COVID-19 session, doing something similar to that. So a facilitated dialogue, essentially. So that's something we're looking into, Maji, but thanks for bringing that back up. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the closing. But if you have any additional thoughts, please feel free to reach out to any of the board members, to myself, and we'll be happy to look at those and respond to you.
Yeah. Can I just say, I think the sessions were really helpful this week, and it just highlighted the need for us to continue to dialogue with each other. Some of us have expertise in certain areas, but not in other areas. And it was really interesting just to see the chats going on and the questions being asked. And so getting together, whether virtually or hopefully in person next year, is so critical. And I really felt that this week.
There is a question in the chat, and thank you for that, Naila. There's a question in the chat about possibility to continue do student affairs related research. I mentioned, I think earlier, and a few other people commented that is a space we need to do more with. We are looking for a research coordinator for the board as well, to help support people and help bring some of those resources and people together. So there is a little bit of support at the moment. There are a few things that if you scroll up in the chat, hopefully you'll be able to see some things and resources that were shared there specific to that question, or that topic, excuse me. Oops. Okay. So first off, I want to begin the closing remarks by thanking all of you who have joined us over the last 3 days. We had approximately 300 people register for events, and we saw sessions as large as close to 100. I think almost all of our sessions had at least 20 or 30 participants. I definitely want to give a big thank you out to everyone who's engaged and participated in this process. Naila, you said it very well about hopefully next year we'll have opportunities to be face-to-face and how important that is. But in the absence of that, or for those who may not be able to travel, I think having a virtual opportunity such as this, or a way to connect, is equally as important in some respects. So going back to the topic of why we're all here to begin with, is how do we support students? And I mentioned in my opening about, I hope that people take time to reflect on your personal lives and how you're managing the COVID-19 crisis with your families and in your personal and your self-care. But obviously also for students and how we're supporting students, how we're engaging with students. There were sessions, several sessions talking about how do we support students virtually, how do we engage with them in different ways. How, for instance, in the last or today's session is talking about writing centers, shifting to virtual sessions for other means and how we engage students and student organizations engaging. So there's a lot of processes that have shifted, but I think that it's a great time for us to look at, to be innovative, not just for where we are now in the current circumstance of working from home and social distancing, but how will that translate for us in the fall, hopefully, when things are back to a more regular routine? How can we take advantage of this forced development or forced vision, looking to how we can serve students in different ways and really be able to capture a much broader audience? We know our students are on their devices all the time. Cell phones, mobile phones are one of the most important devices to a student. Their lives are on that. Our lives are on these devices anymore. So thinking of how we can use different social and interactive virtual forums to connect and engage. Lastly, but before I conclude, I want to encourage you to continue self-care. I know that people are anxious, it's stressful. We faced challenges this morning with some technical issues in getting one of our sessions or operated and launched on time. So we're all sort of in a somewhat new or slightly different arena, whether it's spending 6 hours a day in these virtual forums and having sort of a regular sense of a daily office routine. But you're doing that without a commute. You're doing that without stopping at Starbucks or stopping off for lunch, or having those ways in which we de-stress, and the ways in which you're just going for a walk across your campus, perhaps. So in the absence of those things, I encourage you to find substitutes. Obviously, the advantages are spending time with family and loved ones, and being able to recharge our batteries in other ways, some things I mentioned in the opening. But I really encourage you to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, that you're taking care of your colleagues, those people that are working for you, looking for stressors that they may be facing. I think we're all reaching a point of this Zoom or webinar or conference call sort of exhaustion when you're sitting and looking at the screen for so many hours. It's a great way to connect, but it doesn't replace being face-to-face with people sitting around a table or sitting in an office or standing around on your campus having a social exchange. So I really encourage you to continue to refine those practices, share practices with colleagues. And I want to thank Taysir for her opening and talking about self-care, what that means. And we're looking at possibly doing some additional follow-up sessions to explore that topic. We as student affairs professionals are often focusing on our students in our campus communities. And quite often we're very bad at focusing on ourselves. So that's something I think that we will, based off the feedback and the current circumstances, that we're looking to do a lot more with. So I want to thank all of our presenters. I want to thank all of you that have engaged in the process. A special thank you again to Tiki and Janelle at NASPA for spending their last 3 nights and into the early morning hours with us to support our processes and our presenters. I want to thank the members of AUK who are working to host our conference face-to-face, and the people on the planning committee to support that process, and all of our presenters who did submit for our face-to-face conference. Thank you for all that you have done so we were able to get to the point where we are today. Thank you for your contributions to your colleagues and so forth. And lastly, I do want to thank the MENASA area board. We would not be where we are today without the efforts of all the people on the board currently, those who served in the past, and the combined efforts of board members, of professionals, and of our institutions who are enabling us to have some of these opportunities to come together virtually, to attend conferences, to make time to present, and so forth. So with that, I wish you all the best. Please be safe. Continue social distancing practices, educating others. The more that people are educated about the current crisis and how we can continue to serve our communities safely and effectively, the better we all will be. So be safe, take care. And if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to any of us on the board. We look forward to connecting with you again in the future, virtually or in person. And we continue to work to serve the area as best we can. Thank you and have a good day.